Here we go. Okay. Let me get rid of my meowing cat. My feet here. I can think. Hey, Jules, I'm just starting a call. All right. So there's really two things I wanted to cover today. One is kind of taking a look at the tracker, which then will prompt some conversations around due diligence related to reaching out to your alumni, both your established alumni and your recently matriculated alumni, like your graduating seniors, not seniors, but students. And then we also want to talk about looking ahead to the next year, stewardship content, unless given the fact that Moy will be stepping out and Mickey may not be available, may or may not be. We might want to put that conversation off till next month. I don't know. It's up to you, but let's get started with the taking a look at the tracker, and I might share my screen with you guys here. So overall, it looks pretty good, and Ryan was happy at you know, as you guys have been filling that out sufficiently to have your half of your grants awarded soon. If it hasn't happened already, it should happen in the next couple days. So has anybody checked? Have you gotten the grant money?
Yeah, I think it's happened. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Great. So there's a big fight happening outside our house on the street. We live in kind of a rough part of town. Sorry if I seem a little distracted. It doesn't usually happen this time of day. It happens usually between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. So that's a little.
Where do you live, John?
We live in Worcester, Ohio, which is just a town of 25,000 people, but it has the usual rings of, you know, the downtown surrounded by a ring of low to middle class people, which we live in, and kind of intentionally in this community. And then it gets more affluent the further out you move from the downtown. So, and there happens to be a couple of social service agencies across the street from us. So sometimes people that are in kind of a rough season of life are there for various reasons, and that's where some of the altercations happen. But sounds like it has quieted down now for the time being. So let's proceed. So we'll hold off on talking about Mickey's chapter for now, but Moy, let's take a look at your data here.
Okay.
I'll share my screen. Okay, so this is your this is Kellogg that we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I go to my notes, do you still see the tracking tool, or do you see my notes?
I see your notes.
Okay, so this may not work because I need my notes to stay on track here. But okay, I'm just going to rely on your data here. So a couple questions I had for you regarding Kellogg was, well, just in general, all your chapters, it doesn't seem like the journey of generosity people are reflected in your box E4 here, where it says number of students experiencing stewardship or generosity content. Correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I see 0 for that, for Kellogg, 0 for the full-time U of C MBA people, and then two people from the part-time U of C you have down as experiencing some kind of stewardship content. And so are you counting the journey of generosity as stewardship content for the past year? I think it does count as such.
Okay, if it is, then yeah, I would definitely increase not the Kellogg full-time program, but the Booth full-time program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So at your convenience, if you could go ahead and
Okay.
increase that number.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me glance at my notes here for a second. There's a glitch or something not quite right over here in the, what is that, pink alumni activity. I think for box V4, where you have a total alumni giving monthly, that looks like probably a monetary amount, but that should be a number of people, number of alumni giving monthly instead. And I think you also have
okay. Okay.
your
Yeah.
other tabs. The Kellogg one, I think, says that.
Moy, I'm also wondering, I think that there's more than 6 people that are graduating from this chapter, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
So can you scroll back over to the left there, John? Like in the green?
Mm-hmm.
So the number of graduating students, that would be the total number graduating.
Yeah. Yep.
In the top left. And then the one below that would just be the number that you've been engaging about asking or praying or giving, about volunteering, praying, giving, and advocating.
Yeah. So if you did any kind of GAPS program with them, you'd want to have a number in the J4 box. If you've just completely done transition interviews with them, this is Kellogg that we're looking at, then probably what we have here is up to date. Except, yeah, it's probably up to date. I was wondering about.
So I guess, John, I do have a question about what's the difference between students asked to GAPS and students in the senior program? Because we're pretty much, I feel like for U of C, those are the same.
Well, I mean, I think you bring up a good point. So yeah, if they went through a senior program and he got to the asking for giving, advocating, serving, and praying, then J4's number should ideally match H5. However, if the senior program, maybe it was just more of a celebration and he only intended to make the GAPS asks through the transition interviews, then you could conceivably have a 0 here in J4. So whenever you get to the GAPS asks, so the ask for students to give, advocate, pray, and serve, then that box should have numbers reflecting how many people that was. In a perfect world, we'd have wonderfully orchestrated senior programs for everybody, and in which the GAPS ask would happen. I know sometimes it doesn't happen that way, so if it happens in the transition interview instead, that's fine.
Okay.
So refresh my memory, Moy, like which of these chapters did you do some kind of program with?
You mean programs in the area of giving?
Like a senior program, even though we don't really use the term senior when you're dealing with grad students, but
yeah,
you had some kind of did you have some kind of
we talked about the send-off. The send-off was the program that we had where, the send-off and the journey of generosity were the two programs that we had that contributed towards the GAP.
Okay, so but that wasn't Kellogg, that was Booth.
No, Kellogg wasn't a part of it.
Okay, so you've the entirety of your send-off for Kellogg has been within the transition interviews. Is that correct?
Yeah, and even then, I think the complicated thing with the Kellogg group is I usually only have access to the president and the co-president out of the main group. And I mean, so I don't have full access to the full leadership team, nor do I work with them. It's only the president and the co-president. And at Booth, it's the whole team and occasionally other people within the periphery that I meet during events. But my access to the larger body of the students is very limited.
Okay. I'm not actually as concerned about like whether every single thing is reported on here, but what I am looking for is like if there's gaps, no pun intended, between what like if if you say that, say there's 6 graduating students who are part of a senior program, but only maybe you have down that 5 of them need followed up with, or there's some application that you haven't closed the loop with.
Okay. Yeah.
What I'm looking for, I want to make sure everybody's thinking.
Yeah.
Follow up is
right.
falling through the cracks here. So.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I think when I wrote it down, I was thinking about a few of the students. I mean, if I have that for the Kellogg group, I was thinking of a few students I have in mind, which I do have on my roster of people that I'm going to be getting in touch with.
Yeah. Okay. And then a question about the U of C part-time students. You have 10 in the senior program, but 2 are graduating. Is that because some were not able to do like a December, like they're graduating December, and you lumped them in with this group? Or
I'm sorry, John. Is that your end of? Is your signal choppy or is it mine? Renee, do you hear him a little choppy or is it mine?
Yeah, John, it's like it's kind of garbled.
Oh, really?
On your end.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I'm hearing you guys both perfectly. How about now? I think there's maybe a time delay or something too.
Oh, it's the same. It's really hard to understand you. And I thought maybe it was mine when we first got on the call, but it's happening pretty often. Are you close to the modem?
No, it's downstairs. What if I call in but turn my audio off or something?
Yeah, that would help.
Let me try that. Let's see here.
Renee, I have 2 appointments today with alumni.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I have 2 appointments, and I'm hoping to scoop some up for tomorrow. But looks like if my deficit isn't going to be as big as I thought it would.
Good. Well, I'm glad you got that initial gift from Steve. I'm sorry that it wasn't what you had hoped for.
Yeah, he breezed right through my email. I was really hoping that he saw that.
So he only saw the part about you needing the gift that he committed to. He didn't see the part about the deficit.
He just saw that and he said, check is on its way. And I thought, oh man. And I was worried about that because usually Steve, if I write more than one thing on an email, he only answers the first thing.
Yeah.
He's good for that. And I'm like, oh no. And I don't know if he didn't, if he saw it and didn't want to talk about it, or, right now he has his house on the market. So I think he already moved to DC.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he's no longer in the area.
Wow. Do you know what he's doing in DC?
No, I don't.
Oh, well, good job asking.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm proud of you for doing that.
Yeah, thanks, Renee. I'm gonna keep moving forward. Hopefully that deficit doesn't affect me or keep me from having a good start at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. No, I think you're doing great. Glad that Rob is being tough on you.
He's like a sensei, like really soft, but
really lethal.
Yeah.
You see my pictures of my great grandparents on the wall there?
Wow, those are some I thought you were at a museum when you first.
Right.
I was like, wow, you're at the Detroit Museum.
Right.
The Henry Ford.
Right.
Okay. Let me just mute myself or something here. I don't know. My volume's turned down. Okay. I think we're good now. Okay. All right. It took so long. I realized they had a different Zoom call number pop up on my my phone, but I'm connected now. So
Great.
okay. What were we talking about? Oh, just for Moy, like yeah, for the part-time UC MBA.
Uh-huh.
I'm seeing you have down 10 graduating students in your senior program,
Mm-hmm.
but there's only 2 graduating students. So help me make sense of that statistic.
Yeah, so 10 students. I know of 10 students who are graduating that are part of the program, part of the year's program, that are part of Christians in Business because it's so small. But there's only 2 of the leaders that I work with. And actually, one of them is the one that I have a call with at 12:30. But yeah, that's how I looked at that. I think I answered that in the same way I do for the alumni. What is that thing, Renee, that we filled out together? We had a hard time filling out.
The AFR?
Yeah, the AFR. I filled them out to say, I might have gotten that confused where I thought, okay, how many students are graduating? So that's what I put. And then I compared that with how many students I'm actually going to be asking or talking to.
Oh, so we can't see your screen anymore, John. Could you share your screen again so we can see the different boxes?
Yep. Hold on. There we go.
Okay. Oh, I think, so Moy, I think that you mean to put the 10 in the top box, the number of graduating students. And then the number in the senior program would either be 0 or 2.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. So graduating students 10, graduating students in senior program 2. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
If you're doing something special with them, and if not, then just leave that as 0, and then you'd put the number of transition interviews at 2 if you did 2 transition interviews.
Okay. So yeah, that makes sense. So it would look like 10 to 2 with the transition interviews and the students graduating.
I think so. Did you do some kind of special program for them though, for the graduating students?
They were part of the send-off.
They were.
Barry Rowan send-off.
Okay, yeah. So then, yeah, I would put 10 to 2 there, and then, yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
I wonder if, John, in the future, if the number of graduating students would say total graduating students, if that would help clarify things for people.
Okay. Yeah, maybe like in box G4 up there at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can make that suggestion to Ryan. See what he says.
But
okay.
yeah.
And then I wondered about the pink box here, Moy. Doesn't look like there's anything happening there as far as like established alumni giving or, serving, even receiving a prayer letter, prayer updates. Is that because this is kind of a new thing, just getting started with it, or is there further work that could be done?
I thought maybe it was something that we filled out once we had everybody, once we had the interviews in and we had the total of people giving. I didn't. It appeared that I didn't want to count the chickens before they hatched, so that's why I left.
Do you
that
have
blank.
people from longer ago though, like?
Oh, from long ago, yeah. But I thought this was just all for this year's students.
You can eventually add this year's students to this, but in this box over here on the right, you want to have, basically, you want to just kind of tally up everybody from that chapter
Okay.
who's an alum giving. Now, there might be overlap, though. Like, once they're established alumni, do you think of them in terms of full-time or part-time anymore?
No,
Or not
no,
so
I
much?
don't.
Okay. So that's an important caveat, I guess. So
Mm-hmm.
as long as they show up maybe in this one over here, the full-time, then you'd be set. I can make a note, a comment on here explaining that. Because you don't think of alumni as
Right,
full-time or part-time. They're all on their way. So, so looking at the UFC MBA full-time data, you have 18 alumni are giving. But only 5 are receiving some kind of prayer letter.
No, that's wrong. No, that's
prayer update.
Yeah.
Okay. Just at your convenience, if you can kind of tweak those numbers.
Yeah, I'll put that on my notes right now.
And then tell me again, I know you got to leave in a couple minutes, but what's your plan or practice with alumni news updates, MailChimps, newsletters, etc.? Because I don't see any record of that happening for UFC yet. And then Kellogg, you did one in December, it says.
Yeah.
You'd be due to do another one here this summer, if possible.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't done the one for the summer. I'll definitely do that. Alumni.
Can that go out to everybody, regardless of? I guess it's probably not ideal to send the same one to Kellogg as you're sending to UC. You probably need to do 2 versions of it with some similar content, but tweaked to acknowledge the uniqueness of both audiences.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of how I could do that. I mean, as I think of all of the different chapters, I think what's happening is, I just have to compartmentalize them in my mind, because I'm thinking about the alumni letter. I'm also thinking about most of those alumni get my MailChimp. So I don't want to just double spam them, but I do want to come up with good, fresh news, something different.
Yeah.
What Timothy Corrigan is doing in Columbus is, because he had the same situation, he just kind of lumped everybody, his ministry partners that weren't alumni, along with his alumni, into one thing. And he's just simply, I think he's kind of leaving everybody, like keeping people where they're at, but then just doing like a separate one that's especially about the Ohio State chapter. Whereas his one, to his ministry partners and alumni, is it contains some things about himself personally, and I don't know.
Okay.
But then he focused more wholeheartedly on, or more exclusively on, on the chapter with his alumni specific one. So, yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, these things don't have to be long and drawn out. You know, I whipped out a MailChimp update last night in about half an hour total from start to finish, end of the year fundraising plea. So people think sometimes they have to spend hours perfecting it and do a comprehensive update on every single thing that's happening. And the fact of the matter is, the longer it is, the less chance people are going to read more than just the first couple of things that catch their eye. So they're on the side of brevity and simplicity for sure.
Okay.
A couple of for the chapter one, just a couple of transformations or cool things that God is doing, and then do prayer requests, and then, you know, not every time, but every other time you want to include a ask, like a giving link or something.
Okay.
So, yeah. All right. Okay. So the main thing we need from you is just to update a few of these things like we talked about here. And, all right, I'm hoping that you are kind of working a wave of established alumni. Doesn't really matter which chapter, but some low-hanging fruit into your regular rhythms of MPD. So if that's following up students that you had a transition interview with this past spring.
Oh yeah.
Kind of continuing to work with them. Oh, you need to go.
Yeah, I do.
12.
Sorry about that.
Sorry. Okay.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hi, John. Sorry about today.
That's okay. It happens. We don't always know what our summer days are going to hold when we plan out like this. So, can we talk about you real quick? Yours was hands down the most up to date and made the most sense to me. So thank you. Let me go to what is it? UC graduate.
Yeah, and I was looking over my list here too. I might have some other some tweaks for it. I don't know. Have you seen? There's a new program that allows us to get an email if we have a new partner that signs up.
Okay.
Did you? I don't know.
Through the existing donor services.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had one of my alumni start giving, but they set it to start like in July or August. But I got the email that they went on and logged, like they've set it up already, even though I haven't seen a gift come through yet. So I wasn't sure, do I count them? I haven't gotten anything, but they have registered for it to start in July, I think, July or August.
My mantra is not count it until money's in the bank, just because that can overinflate results and stuff where we're at.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think so what I did was actually the number of, I'm a little confused because I did the ask at the senior event. So there were 1, 2, 3, there were 4 students that I asked only at the event, and they filled out their alumni forms at the event. But then there were 1, 2, 3, 4, there were 5, there were 6 that I met with one-on-one for transition interviews.
Okay.
So I asked the ones at the senior event the same things that I asked the ones that I met with individually. It's just that I asked them in a group versus asking them one-on-one.
Yeah. Totally fine. I don't think it matters.
Okay.
It's accomplishing the same thing,
Okay.
I mean, they missed out on, the ones who weren't at the GAPS event missed out on the fun and camaraderie, perhaps, right?
Right.
But you still are. Do you have any anecdotal evidence to show what has been the more effective stream? Like, did more people say yes one-on-one than in the group, or vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, one-on-one was definitely better because I was just able to get a more clear answer from them. So I had them fill out the alumni form at the event, but I didn't ask for a verbal response about each of the different things that we were asking for. So I didn't know until I came home and read the forms what they had said about giving, volunteering, advocating, or serving.
Okay.
So when I met with them in person, I was able to ask them more directly, would you be willing to give? And this is how much I would, like to ask you to start with. And I got a clear, like a verbal response about whether or not they were going to give, and all the different things too. So I think, what Melody, my supervisor, had told me too, was that she didn't want me to spend all the time that it would have taken to do 10 separate interviews with people. Because lots of the times I was driving, it would take me like a 5 hours or something, with driving an hour and a half to get there and an hour and a half to get back. and they often couldn't meet on the same day. So I had to do them different days. They weren't all available on the same day.
Yeah.
So, but it was helpful. I met with all of the leaders one-on-one before the event. And so that was good because they were hearing my spiel twice and they had already all agreed to give. And so one of them also gave like a second ask and just saying, you know, all of us leaders have already agreed to give, and we really encourage you to do the same. So I feel like that was helpful in that they were already being able to advocate, right? in that context.
Definitely.
So I would definitely do it that way again.
Okay. Good. I'm curious about the specifics on the advocating and serving. Like, what does that look like? What's the 6 that said, the 5 that said yes to advocating, and the 4 that said yes to serving?
Yeah. So serving, some of those were more like they had circled maybe, and they weren't really sure, depending on where they ended up, because they didn't have jobs and stuff lined up yet. A few of them are staying in Chicago. And so one shared with me when I met with him, and I hadn't seen him in like a year, about how he went through a really hard breakup, but he was with somebody who wasn't really walking with the Lord and just felt like that wasn't what he really wanted longer term. And he was getting at the point where they were either going to get married or they were going to break up. And so I just thanked him for sharing that with me. And like looking back now, he's so glad that he made that decision. And then he had grown up Catholic and then had been more in Protestant churches. But then after that breakup, I think he was getting some counsel from a priest, and he ended up going back to Catholicism. So I asked if he'd be willing to share his story, like on a panel maybe at some point with the grad chapter, because I think students hearing from me that it's not good for them to date a non-Christian, they might just kind of write it off. But hearing it from another student who's actually been there and seen that it wasn't a good idea or a good choice, and he's like, oh yeah, I'd be glad to share that. I'm really open with talking to people about it. So that was one like more concrete thing that was
great.
And then he's already advocated in that he shared with me that there were a group of 4 or 5 students in the policy school where he was a part of, that were meeting regularly to talk about how their faith impacted their studies. And they were not part of our chapter at all. These were older students. So, but those students aren't graduating, and he passed on all those names to me to follow up with them. So that was really great. Yeah. And then other folks that are in the area, it's still it's unsure as to what volunteering could look like, but I think I'll just call on them when it seems like there's a good opportunity.
Ryan Lustblue and I talked about how to plug volunteers in recently. He had a very helpful word, because our problem in East Ohio is we have these names in mind, but it's just hard to think about, how do I plug so-and-so in? I want to utilize this person's gifts, but I don't know where to, he said start with the needs, not the people. And we were kind of paralyzed trying to think about how to plug people in. But if you think of, and it's different at the GFM level, I'm sure, but like some very logical places to plug volunteers in at the undergrad level would be, student outreach, like helping with tabling, helping put on an event, a barbecue, or ice cream social, and then fall retreats, fall conferences are big, at least in our region, at the undergrad level. And so things like staffing the book table or helping with registration, or setting out snacks, whatever, little things. That was helpful to us. I feel like now we can start with the tasks and think through who might be logical people to ask.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I actually just got an email this week from an alum from Connecticut who's moving to Chicago for grad school, but she's going to grad school in the suburbs where we don't have any ministry happening yet. But she wanted to connect with one of our current grad chapters. And I'm trying to find out who might know her, because I have no idea who this person is right now. And so I'm like going through the directory trying to find like the area director who might know who the student is. But I feel like that would be helpful too if there was some, well, I think, is it Salesforce or some of those programs are supposed to help us keep better track of people, but it would just be helpful to know, like, would their staff person recommend them as somebody to volunteer or not? Like, I have no idea who they are at this point.
Those are good questions to be asking. You know, there can be some eager beavers that have, there might just maybe reasons why the person who knew them back where they're coming from might have some reservations.
Yeah.
You know,
so that's just been kind of hard for me to navigate.
Stuff for, yeah. That's why it's that you're kind of taking that step.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's taking me a little while to try and track down, who to contact, but it would be great. Yeah. I don't know, even in the alumni, as we fill out the alumni forms, if there would be a way that the staff could put in there, like, yes, I do recommend them as a volunteer, or no, I don't recommend them, or just something really simple like that.
Yeah. So I agree.
Would be
Another
helpful.
suggestion to pass on to the powers that be.
Right.
Okay.
So anyway,
all right.
Other questions you have for me?
Let's see here. Oh, so engaging with alumni. I see your pink box over here to the right. Doesn't have a lot of yet. I think your plan was sometime this summer to reach out in some way to your longstanding UC grad alumni. Is that right?
Yes.
I forget what exactly you had planned, but
yeah, I'm meeting with my supervisor tomorrow, and I think I'm going to ask her more about how much time she wants me to spend on that. Yeah, because I'm also having to do some prep now for our winter conference already, so that we have information ready by NSO.
Yeah.
And if she wants me to prioritize this or raising funds for other new staff to hire.
This is just a brainstorm, but since you've said that you don't have a strong relationship with a lot of alumni anyway from this chapter, is there a volunteer, whether they're alum or otherwise, that you're close to that you think would have some talent in, like if you assign them, hey, reach out to these 60 or 80 UC grad chapter alum on my behalf, like compose a newsletter, do a mailing, I don't know, could that be a delegatable kind of thing to somebody else?
Yeah, potentially. I'm actually thinking of some of the students that just graduated this summer who might not have jobs yet. Even if I had a couple of them, the problem is that they often live on the other side of the city from me, but more so if I did it with them, like if I had like one evening that they came over and we like all did the mailing together or something. There isn't somebody that I know well from years past that I think could do that. A few folks that come to mind are either in job transitions where I think that's pretty all-consuming for them. But I'll ask my supervisor too if she's any suggestions.
Okay. All right, great. What was it you had kind of planned to do? You were going to send them all something.
Yeah, like you mean like a letter in the mail or something?
Yeah, or write them a note, or I forget what you said. You had some good idea that didn't seem to just be like.
Oh, I was gonna create a prayer postcard.
Yes, that's what it was. Okay. Yep.
A prayer postcard, and then would it make sense to ask for partnership in that same mailing?
I think so. I mean, even if it takes additional effort eventually by someone to be able to deal with most people, a lot of people don't respond right away to just a postcard. It's at least drawing people's attention to it.
Yeah.
so that when you do follow up sometime, they're like, oh yeah, I remember. I remember you.
Right. Yeah. No, that would be
Yeah.
good. And I feel like I've already forgotten how to get the alumni. You showed me last time in the portal how to pull up the alumni.
Yeah, I can show you that again if you want.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can you see the Ivy staff site on your screen?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So then you go to the portal. This staff on the front page looks like he's 13. He has a
You know what?
baby.
I met them when they first started on staff because I was out at their regional staff conference in Blue Ridge. And yeah, it was like 5 years ago or something.
They look so young. Too young to have a baby. So that's the alumni portal here. No, it's actually chapters. No, hold on. Alumni reports of their alumni, maybe. I don't do this often enough, so that it's kind of like, I think it's chapters, view my chapters. Here we go. And then alumni, but you have to pick the one that you want. So let's go to East Ohio, College of Worcester, and then alumni report. And
okay.
at least for a while, I don't know if they resolved this, but it wasn't downloading correctly with Macs. So if I borrowed a PC, it would download.
Oh,
correctly.
I have a Mac too. So how am I going to get that then?
If you tell me what you want, I can download it and email it to you.
Yeah. Well, do you have access?
I don't have access. I only have access to. Do I have access to everybody? I don't think I do. Just Great Lakes. So I know that another GLE staffer, spent a long time on the phone with IT help desk.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe just emailing the alumni department and asking them for exactly what you want, saying, can you? I've heard that there's a interfacing issue with Macs and the downloads. Could you send me just an Excel file of all of the alumni from my chapter, so that I don't have to take the time to so that you don't have to take the time to mess with that, figuring that out.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd be wanting to do that.
Okay.
Let me see if it actually downloaded correctly, though. Possibly they've been fixing.
Oh, so my emailing the alumni department, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you in a second, though. I'm opening this file that downloaded. That's not it. It's something else. Carry that. You may not even be able to see it download. I don't know. Screen share.
Oh, okay. Yeah, now I see.
No, it's still doing it. I don't know if you can see that, but everything shows up in one column instead of spread out across the whole spreadsheet. So the information's there. I mean, if you're only talking like 60 people, you could find what you need through the glitchy spreadsheet. But on a PC, you're gonna end up with a properly laid out spreadsheet with different columns showing you different data. So if I were you, unless you have an afternoon to spend on the phone with help desk, I would just recommend emailing the alumni department. Saying,
Okay.
can you just provide me with a downloaded spreadsheet of all the alumni from this particular chapter?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So the other thing we were hoping to talk about today is the stewardship content for next year.
Oh,
you want to put it up till next time, or?
I think so, because I don't know what Mickey's done yet. So I'm curious to hear more about that. And
in some ways, I mean, we have some time on our hands because it's only June still, and
Yeah.
but if you want to have a preliminary conversation today, we can, or if you just want to put it off till next month.
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of talk through some ideas. I mean, I haven't been in touch yet with the new leaders for U Chicago.
Okay.
They just graduated June 15th. So they've only been out of school for like a couple of weeks.
Real recent. Yeah.
And I was still doing all my transition interviews up until like the last week. So I didn't have time to connect with the new leaders quite yet. I do know all of them because I did attend one of the leadership transition meetings.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of figuring out if there's a day, when a day could work that we could have like our planning meeting and things. So
are you thinking that you would kind of plan something for UC and then hope that Mickey and Moy's chapters could do something modeled after that, or is it going to have to be kind of like each chapter comes up with their own?
I think
thing?
Moy's chapters would definitely be different, just being in the business school, and because he already has the history of doing the Journey of Generosity retreats with them.
Yeah.
I think a lot more of their guest speakers too also talk about generosity in their testimonies, because they're people that are also making a lot of money, and they realize that that can be a real temptation to just kind of control their lives. And so they've chosen for generosity to be a big part of their lives, so that their wealth doesn't become their idol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think Moy's will be a slightly different. With mine and with Mickey's, I think both of us would rather have our students, the leaders, kind of be on board with it, so that it's not something just coming from us, but it's something that the whole team has agreed to, and that they know like the purpose and the agenda behind it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with the grad students, one of the main differences is that they're not just going to blindly follow us like maybe an undergrad chapter would. They're really leading most of the chapter, and so they would need to need to have co-ownership of any kind of programming like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are there any other things that what is Timothy planning? Does he have a plan yet for the fall, or what he's doing at Ohio State?
Yeah. So he likewise is relying a ton on the leaders.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of considers himself a silent bystander in a lot of these meetings, offering his thoughts when asked, but generally letting them sort of set the pace and tone. But the Ohio State chapter has an ongoing relationship with a couple. Maybe you've met them, Gary and Peggy Nielsen. Gary was on staff GFM in Columbus maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And then they spent some time with the IFES movement in Moldova. Actually, I think helped start the IFES movement over there. And so Gary and Peggy now are based in Holland, Michigan, but still do a lot with some microloan things in Moldova, and also continuing to support the IFES movement there. And so Ohio State all along has sort of, supported, kind of adopted Moldova as a sister movement or whatever. And that's, again, where they're focusing as far as like a tangible source of where any funds collected would wind up. And so then along the way, leading up to the offering or the fundraising events they do. I think they do like a fundraising event in the fall and an offering in the spring. They're doing some content-based discussions on stewardship and why, how does giving to something like this fit into God's kingdom picture kind of thing. So I think it's good. They haven't always done a very good job of building up to these things. So I think sometimes in the past, a lot of they just don't have a way to get the word out that an offering is going to be taken, for example. But I think with some intentional stewardship content planning, where it sort of culminates in this offering or this fundraising event, that will no longer be a challenge for them. No, unless someone's had their head in the sand, they won't show up to the event where the offering is being taken and be like, "Huh? I didn't know about about this."